Going on, everyone? Kurt Weidner here in the Team Animal Training Compound, and it's Sunday Fun Day, so we got all the dogs in the gym. They're having a good time. Little puppy play date here. But today, I'm here to talk to you about the Fringesport Mammoth Belt Squat Attachment, which I got a little over a week ago, and have had a chance to use it a few times. So I want to do a full review. So first of all, belt squats. I'm going to be real honest. I was never a big belt squat guy. Some people seem to be enamored with belt squats, and amongst leg equipment, which if you look around my gym, I love leg equipment. It's one of my favorite things to buy and use. But I was never like, I gotta have a belt squat. And I've actually had a full belt squat machine in here. I can kind of take it or leave it. That being said, I think it has some application. Obviously, you can get some extra volume work on your lower body without axial loading. In my case right now, having a lot of trouble actually comfortably being able to get under a bar because of the shoulder issues I have on the left side. So it enables me to kind of add an alternative form of squatting without, aggravating the hell out of my shoulder. Anyway, so let's get into it. So a couple weeks ago, Justin, who's my workout partner on the weekends, is behind the camera right now, brought in his Revolt. Is it Revolt or Revolt?
Both ways, yes.
So Revolt kind of introduced a very simplistic belt squat attachment for racks. This is a 30-inch piece, with it's obviously plate loaded. Very simple carabiner. You attach a belt to it. And so we use this, and I kind of like the idea of it. It was a different way to get some extra training volume in, mostly doing high rep stuff. And I was getting to where I was ready to order it, and then I started coming across other alternatives. I came across this Fringesport piece, and one of the things that made this obviously a better option was, there's two things really, but this has a kickstand. Now we had kind of jerry-rigged our own kickstand. We were just using a 4x4 and placing it underneath, which works. And honestly, you could DIY something like this if you had the time and the tools and you felt like building your own belt squat, building your own kickstand. It wouldn't be hard to do. So this item right here, the Revolt, is about $180 right now, okay? And it's very simplistic. Doesn't come with a belt. It doesn't have a kickstand. It's as basic as it gets, but it works. First of all, the Mammoth has a design where you can actually, it's customizable in terms of the length. You can extend this out, so you have a much longer lever arm, whereas that's 30 inches. This right now is around 48. Okay, now you could actually take this out a couple more inches, although the way the hole spacing is, you probably wouldn't be able to use 3 bolts. For strength purposes, if you're using a decent amount of weight, I'd kind of feel a little safer having all 3 bolts in there. I don't know, how much that matters. But having the kickstand gives you a better starting position. Otherwise, you're having to attach and squat yourself out of the bottom to start the movement, and that's kind of a pain. So the kickstand, which is an additional purchase, although this week, or that was last week and maybe this week, they were offering, if you buy this, you get a free kickstand, okay? So you get a longer lever arm. The advantage of that is it reduces the amount of arc in the movement. The shorter that lever arm, you're getting a lot of arc. You're getting variable resistance through the movement. It kind of distorts your pattern of your line of action when you're squatting. I think you has more of a propensity to do that at higher weight. So longer lever arm kickstand, and it was still in a very affordable price range. This belt squat attachment is $250. Like I said, they've been throwing in the kickstand for free. For what you get, it's a pretty good deal. Now, one of the other things about this is this actually fits different size racks. So I have a 3x3 rep PR5000 rack, but this will fit a 2x2 and a 2x3. So this piece can be oriented vertically or horizontally to accommodate your rack. And it actually comes with different pieces. So there's different bolts. This piece right here, they give you 2, depending on how you're going to set it up. The safety pin that locks that mechanism in there's two different ones. So if you have, what I think it's 5-inch holes, comes with a pin for that. This is 1-inch hole, so it comes with a pin for that. One of the other features that this has is the UMHW coated plastic here that protects your rack, which you can see the Revolt does not have. So there's a certain few features that for a little bit more money, you're still staying in a very affordable price range, but you're getting a pretty nice, attachment and very usable piece of equipment that virtually takes up no space because you can take this out and, put it wherever the hell you want. So a couple things about it as I was putting together. First of all, when you look at the directions, I think it shows this post going on the 4th hole. Well, if you put this post in the 4th hole, this is the plate holder, okay? The plate is actually going to come over the piece that you attach your belt to. So that's not going to work. So I had to back it up one, okay? And when you back it up one, what you can see is that now it's going to interfere with my kickstand lever. Okay, so that's really an easy thing to circumvent. All I did was put a 10 there, and now the plate clears the kickstand, and I can bring that in and out without it interfering. That being said, when I went back and looked at the videos and the pictures of the way it's displayed online, they have this in at least 2 more holes. Well, I didn't want to do that because if you're going to have the weight all the way in here, it kind of defeats the purpose of having a longer lever arm, okay? So I left it where it is, and I just used the 10 so that I can keep the weight as far to the end of that arm as possible and have it not interfere with the kickstand. One other item, and this, again, these are minor discrepancies, but if you look at the way it's advertised, it advertises a 900-pound weight capacity, I think. That's a little misleading because I think some people would interpret that to mean that you can put 900 pounds on there. So first of all, you can fit about 8 45-pound plates on here if you're dealing with regular 45-pound plates. The 900 pounds is referring to the weight capacity of the steel. That's what it's built for. So you're not going to break it. So you can put a lot of weight on here. All right. Unless you have calibrated plates, which are really thin, you're not going to be able to put 900 pounds on this post. Secondly, I don't think you'd really want to, because while it does have a kickstand, this is not a real thick kickstand, and you can see there is a little bit of wobble to that. So as you start getting more weight on there, it's not going to be as steady, and even when you start loading this up, I wouldn't want to have, 700, 800, 900 pounds of there. Furthermore, if you're using like 800, 900 pounds in a damn belt squat, you probably just want to buy yourself an actual belt squat piece of equipment, not an attachment, because with you moving that kind of weight, I wouldn't want just an arm holding it, okay? So, let's talk for a second about some of the other options on the market. So, again, when you're looking, this is going to appeal mostly to somebody who's looking for an affordable way to incorporate belt squats into their home gym, and also likely has limited space where they don't want something like the Rogue Rhino that takes up an enormous footprint, okay? It's very effective in achieving those two things because it is affordable, and like I said, it takes up almost no space. If you wanted to look at something that was an attachment, but in a higher price range, Sorinex has what I think is called the J Squat, and it attaches to a jammer arm, but it's an entirely different price level altogether. So the belt squat attachment is in the vicinity of around $500, but that does not include the jammer arm, okay? If you had to buy it all, you're looking at somewhere around $1,000. So that's a completely different level of purchase. Now that being said, there's a company called Vulcan. I think they're based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, and they seem to have a copycat version of the J Squat, same type of jammer arm, and theirs it looks the same. It looks like the damn J Squat. I want to say is around the $450 range, and I don't even think it's even come out yet because when you look at the website, it says pre-order. So I don't know that anybody even has one yet, but it looks very interesting. It's a sturdier built thing. The kickstand itself appears to be like a 3x3. I think the arm is a 3x3, not a 2x3. So it's going to be built a lot sturdier. And the other major difference when you look at the J Squat or that Vulcan is that it's this side-loaded piece. So not only are you going to likely be able to get a hell of a lot more weight on it, but it's also going to be more stable and probably less rocking between it being side-loaded and being, thicker, heavier steel. The kickstand itself looks a lot sturdier. The only issue I could potentially see with that, and it depends where those loading pins are, and again, I haven't had the chance to use either one of those, is what kind of depth can you get in your squat without it hitting on the sides. So, if you want really simple and cheap, $180 gets you a 30-inch arm. You'd have to jerry-rig your own kickstand. You need to have your own belt. Now, one of the things about the Fringesport, not only does it have the kickstand, but they do throw a belt in. Okay, and this is a decent belt, for doing belt squats. Now, I don't use it because I already had a Spud belt squat belt that I bought years ago, and this thing's really nice. I use it for sled, I use it for belt squats, and I just prefer this. I already had it. So, but it's not necessary to buy it. So one of the advantages of this, that price, getting a belt with it, that's a pretty decent deal. So, let's see what this actually looks like in action. All right. You can see I can get pretty good depth. I mean, that's all the way down. I'm getting a below parallel squat before it hits. If you wanted to get even further, I could use elevated platforms on the side. Of course, that's going to lower your starting point, but I can get adequate depth using this. And also, I haven't really played around with, adjusting, where the arm ties into the rack, but that's something else you can do. Although if you put it higher, you're increasing that arc. Now, one thing with belt squats in general when you're dealing with an attachment like this is that even with the longer arm, there is still some degree of arc. And I think you tend to notice that as you go heavier, because on the descent, when you get beyond about 50% of your descent, that line of travel that the weight wants to go is starting to come forward. And when that starts to become a certain multiple of your body weight, it can tend to try to pull you forward and actually pull you off balance. So when you get up to like 7 and 8 plates, it's not necessarily about how strong your legs are, but it's not the same movement pattern as a perfectly vertical belt squat or a barbell squat that's, traveling the line of gravity. Okay? So how I like to incorporate it, doing high rep stuff as part of a superset, as part of a finisher, I think it's a great conditioning tool. I tend to like it for higher rep sets, sets of 20, sometimes down to 15. When I get it really heavy, it just doesn't, it feels a little weird. So if you're somebody that wants to really try to use a belt squat to do excessive weight, like lower reps, you probably want to look at other options, at least doing something like the J squat or the Vulcan version of the J squat, because it's going to be built more for doing, higher weights. Now, another application of belt squat that I always was a big fan of was doing RDLs. And I didn't know how well this would work for that. So yesterday, we incorporated that into the workout. So for the RDL, to get a nice full range, I like to include these elevated platforms. And I wanted to see if this worked as well as when I used the Rhino for doing RDLs. And you can see I get a nice stretch. These are about 3.5 to 4 inch platforms, getting plenty of range and plenty of stretch in the hamstrings. And I actually really enjoyed incorporating that into the workout. Again, a simplistic, different way to do RDLs that I thought was just as effective as when I did them on a cable-fed belt squat machine. I've also, with some of my clients, used this for single arm rows and felt that it worked pretty well. So again, a nice alternative, especially if you're limited in your dumbbell weight. Like if you want to be able to do really heavy rows and maybe you only have dumbbells that go up to 100 pounds, it's a good way you can overload that. So there are multiple applications of this. Overall, I would say at the price point, what you're getting, okay, a piece of equipment that is multifunctional, it's effective at what it does, it's slightly better than the most economical version in multiple ways, and really it's extremely space efficient, that it takes up almost no space. So this one's a no-brainer for me. I think it's a great buy. $250 for what you're getting. Damn good purchase. I'm glad I bought it, and I would certainly recommend it for anybody else who has a home gym and wants to kind of add a lot of versatility and functionality to their workout repertoire. Justin, you got anything you want to add to that?
Did you want to talk about the elevated?
Yes, actually, thank you for reminding me. So one other thing that we did, if you guys have followed me for a while, you know I'm a fan of doing knees over toes type stuff. I think it's great for not only getting extra quad work, but conditioning the knees, okay? And so yesterday, I wanted to experiment towards the end. We just wanted to we had done a 2-hour leg workout, and at the end we were just kind of trying to smoke the quads. So as part of the finisher, we were doing sled pushes back and forth, right into leg extensions, and then finishing off the superset with heel elevated belt squats. And I really like doing heel elevated with this, okay? So you can see right away, that's the only thing, you gotta remember to take the kickstand down. I've done that several times. But my range of motion, because I'm bringing my feet up, is even better than it was when I'm just standing on the ground. The other thing, when you use, this is a 20-degree wedge. Okay, so 20 degrees, if you're doing anything with weight on your back, there's a lot of balance involved, so you make sure you don't fall forward. But if you want to focus more on just working the quads and conditioning the knees and not having to worry about as much of the balance, you can kind of just put your hands here for balance and focus on going super deep. And I think these are awesome, especially as an end of workout finisher, part of a superset, whether you're incorporating that with leg press, sled, extensions. It's just a great way to cap a quad workout off. You got anything else?
Good.
All right, so hopefully you guys find this review helpful. I'll put a link for the belt squat in this, and appreciate, if you give the video a like, subscribe. If you guys want to see other content, shoot it in the comments below. Until next time, get after it. Have a great week.